it becomes a really neat tool.
Yeah, I really anticipate that there's going to be this concept of an e-portfolio
Liz.
for students.
Okay.
There it is. You're up.
What's up, Mom?
Mom.
But I'm kind of sad he didn't bring me food. I'm surprised.
How's it going? I thought you were busy for something.
So everything Boston
Liz was the coordinator for the bio joint school. This is Miles, so I have
Hi.
But Andre says, not a good day so far, as I could not get into the building. I left my lunch at the hotel, and the cab charger didn't work. As soon as ready, I can try doing the meeting. Tim, I am outside Edith's place at QUT, better than outside of Portland.
Where's Tim? Tim's here. I mean,
That's good.
okay.
So Sarah and Andre are going to be online, right?
Yeah.
So we do need Tim present. We physically need Tim.
Right. What did you end up using? Did you use a Jindo for your WordPress page? For your, what did you use for your personal science?
Yeah. God. It is there. Yeah, too. Yeah, that's what they need. It's for No, they're awesome.
Oh, they're close.
Good to see you.
Andre, you're good?
It should be closer. It is when you guys it takes to get the coverage into this. Yeah. Much closer. And yeah, still, a lot of lockdown, so I haven't had a chance to go down here. You're on trust.
I am. Things are going well. The island remains afloat. So, that's interesting.
How did some classes go this year?
I had nothing to do.
Oh, wow.
Next summer I teach. I teach the fish class every year.
Oh, good for you. Do you have time yourself in a family or something?
Yeah. I do a little bit of family time, but I really what I did is I keep a ton of people. So at one point I had 9 people with PhDs in my lab, and a commensurate number of minions in the form of postdocs and graduates. It was something else. It was so much fun. It was really, really fun. So, you want to sit up close? He doesn't spit. No, not much.
Good.
Well, he does spit actually, but it's good to see you.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. So what about you? Family life in New Locale?
No, it's prohibitively expensive for long term, just in terms of housing. But Vancouver's a great city to be in. And
What is the deal? Are you
No.
postdoc.
Postdoc.
Yeah, so I've got a 2-year contract for now. So about 6 months into it. So yeah, just getting
Is it
steam rolling.
extendable?
Potentially, yeah. The funds are from are for researchers from the nonprofit, and so depending on what we find, and maybe interested in extending or expanding that. Obviously, something permanent would be better for my family. So but who knows? I expect it. Extreme.
So what are you watching? What kind of job?
The bad thing is something that gives my family a little consistency. So academic is probably I would love, but obviously there are few and far between. So I would look at federal as well. So
Yes.
research.
So you're looking for mentors?
I do.
Yeah, that is a-
Yeah.
No, it's gonna be like.
Also, I would look
Lateral
around.
faculty
Okay.
position?
I haven't seen one that fits me.
Okay, good.
Okay.
You might be
I'll just take your.
narrowing yourself.
No.
I might be. That's how to chase that.
Yeah.
Market, that's not a good picture. I can expand a little bit
More
more.
qualified to teach.
Mom and Dad, this is.
Nice to meet you.
Perfect.
Thank
Say
you.
10, this is good.
Yeah.
You're gonna be.
Usually it's all adjectives. Good scoundrel.
Mr. Bizzarro, I like the beard.
Right.
You look fantastic.
Mom was perfect.
Yeah, very,
How are you? It's great to meet you.
very good to see you, bro. You got your. Glad to be closer, just distance-wise.
Yeah.
We talk about it too often. The time has come.
So you know there's some serious stuff.
Good. I dropped my wife off at the airport in Vancouver this morning. She flew out to do some field. So unfortunately, my sister was my son off a few minutes ago. Just got hit.
Oh, I'm Miles.
Miles.
It's good to meet you. Oh, I know that much about it. Oh, good. So this is your big
What did you know about him?
Oh, I know a lot
You're from
about
New
it.
Jersey.
Yeah.
But most people.
A little bit.
Makes sense.
Well,
It's just, you know.
It's
It's so different, you know, it's done so well.
it's good to meet you.
Very proud.
If you do that, or maybe your granddaughter is totally different, so.
Yeah. I don't need to use this stopwatch.
Yeah, it's just a big required focus.
You're not.
Did you get Andre? It looks like he's LinkedIn all the way. Andre, are you there?
Yeah, we need to make sure he's in here.
Andre, you're there?
He's good.
And his son has.
So I can't help you from here.
Andre, can you see this screen? Oh, yeah, that look. There we go. So you can see that, right?
All set now? Sarah, you've got a great microphone.
Yeah.
Is that like a professional mic?
So, well, guys, the rules say that we have to have at least one of you always on the record. So if we ever lose both of you, we have to stop and restart. So we might be checking your name after presentation. Oh, God. Okay, well, we'll just pretend you're always here. Okay, all right. Because we're just barely meeting the quorum and stuff. But we're cool. So I'm gonna get you started here soon. It wasn't absolutely slim, but.
Hey, Tim. So, and you were GIMP. Yeah. Good. So, do we have time, right? We meet the minimum with the two of them online?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we're
I think so.
just good.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That's all we need.
What do you mean just good?
Well, there is a requirement of quorum and physical presence, and so he can't leave the room. If he leaves the room, we have to stop.
Actually, if any three of us leave.
Right, if any of the three of us leave, we have to stop.
What if someone gets disconnected?
That's okay, because he's in the discipline. He's in fisheries, right? And he's getting a degree in fisheries, so we can lose those two, but we have to get them back at the discussion. But if during the presentation, don't make him come.
All right, it's 2:01.
No, it
Okay, Andre and Sarah in here. Looking up. I hear both of them on.
They're both on.
Okay.
They're talking about coffee and things.
Oh, I can't hear. We're gonna kick off. Ready? Sarah? Andre, you ready? Okay. Welcome to the proudest moment in any Ph.D. advisor's life, the moment when the fledgling is fledged. So it's just a great pleasure to introduce this talk by Joe Bizzarro, who's been my graduate student for the last 5 years or so here in the School of Fisheries. Joe came to us from Australian Marine Lab, where he spent an unconscionable amount of time pawing around inside the guts of skates and sharks and even bony fishes. And he also has a distinguished career underwater. He spent a lot of his time in submersibles doing survey work in the deep. And for his dissertation, he sort of continued that trajectory, combining lots of different kinds of data sets to capture big picture sorts of things. Joe's role in my lab has been as a sort of statistical guru. In addition to being the go-to person for us to talk to about cartilaginous fishes, Joe has ended up collaborating on projects as disparate as how whale sharks and manta rays filter feed and how flatfish bury themselves, because he brings a really wonderful numerical sensibility and combines it with a deep love and understanding of the natural history and biology of fishes. So I'm of mixed minds. I mean, frankly, if we could sabotage him, he gets to stay here and we get a lot more cool work out of him. On the other hand, he would probably kill me. It's just the moment when we get to see all of the amazing things that Joe has done for his dissertation in the past 5 years. So I won't take any further time to introduce Joe. He's author of about 20 papers. He's going to tell you all about comparative resource use in skates.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Thank you all. For all sitting on the left side of the room, my political bent is understood. So before I start my talk today, I want to first tell you what I mean by resource utilization. By that I mean use of food and space, basically kind of the two basic elements of the niche. For my talk today, I'm going to start by giving an overview on skates, what they are, what we know about them, why we care. Then get into some of the ecology, talk about spatial associations. I have two different assemblages that we're going to talk about, one off Central California, which I call the West Coast assemblage. This one of my work extensively to the West Coast, and another in Western Gulf of Alaska, which I call the Gulf of Alaska assemblage. So we'll start with the spatial associations, those two groups, then trophic relationships. Then I'll summarize kind of the ecological results, apply those to some management, hopefully some management strategies going forward, some information we can use for management, and then wrap it up. So, start, what are skates? Skates are cartilaginous fishes in the class Chondrichthyes. There are three main groups of Chondrichthyes. The crabfish or chimeras are the out group, and then the batoids and sharks are two sister groups. And all told, there's just over about 1,200 species. And skates make up about half of all the batoids, and 1 in every 4 Chondrichthyan species is a skate. So there's remarkable taxonomic diversity in this group. About 60% of skates have been described in the last 60 years or so. So the numbers and the relative abundance of skates related to those are likely to continue to increase. What we know about skate biology, they are morphologically conservative. They look similar to people that are not really trained in identifying skates, which has led them to be lumped often for inland and management purposes. They mainly have case-selected life histories. This is especially indicative of large species and species in deeper water. They're distributed around the globe from intertidal regions to over 4,100 meters. And there's this idea, if we read literature on skates, that they're generalist predators on unconsolidated substrates, which sets up a bit of a paradox and was kind of an interesting question to me to kind of frame my dissertation. One of the things I was most interested in is, how can there be 300 species of skates if they're all generally kind of doing the same thing? So this is kind of in the background of my head as I've been working on this. Why do we care about skates? It's not because they're particularly good looking, but they are. They're abundant meso and upper trophic level predators. They're often predators for competitors with ground fishes in certain systems, so that gives management or science and managers some reason to be interested in them. There are altered assemblage structures in skates, especially prevalent in areas that have been subject to long-term fishing pressure, like the North Atlantic, where you see species composition radically changing over time. And there are declining in large nearshore species. Some skates are among the most endangered of all marine fishes. So to introduce you to the West Coast skates, and I'm throwing my West Coast skate gang sign. There are 5 in the assemblage I'm going to be talking about. And I'm talking about skates on the continental shelf and upper continental slope. most part, down to about 600 meters or so. Off the west coast, there are essentially these 5 species, and that's about it. The big skate, which gets to about 2.4 meters and ranges from the Bering to the Gulf of California. Long-nosed skate has the same range, is a little smaller, about 1.4 total length, that's maximum. Big skate is Bering Raja binoculata. Long-nosed skate is Raja Ryan. I'm going to try to use common names throughout, just in case that's the sandpaper skate, Matthew Raja from Ph.D, named after Trevor Kincaid at Garmin in 1908, ranges from about the Strait of Juan to Baja. California gets 66 centimeters. California skate gets to about 75 centimeters, and it ranges from just about the same region, or it ranges from about the Strait of Juan to the Gulf of California. And then the starry skate is about 76 centimeters maximum size, and that goes from north to Baja. The numbers you see here on the left are the numbers that I had for my spatial analyses, and the numbers on the right are the number of stomachs with food that I had for my short analysis. So if we look at the Gulf of Alaska, we have 2 of the same species, which is nice because it enables a comparison of those. We have 3 other kind of main players here. The Aleutian skate gets to 1.6 meters and ranges from Japan all the way to California. Bering skate, 86 centimeters max size. And that extension of Bering right to about British Columbia. Alaska skate is 1.3 meters max. Bizzarro carnivora, Bizzarro and the skate range from Japan to Alaska. One thing I want to mention about these assemblages is that big and long-nosed skate are larger, they grow to larger sizes in Alaska, and all these kind of secondary species, and we're calling them secondary species now because big and long-nosed skate are the ones that are most interested in fisheries and fisheries managers. They're the ones that are generally landed incidentally. The other species of skate in Alaska, each of them is bigger than any of the other species off the west coast. So the questions that I want to look at for my study, the kind of larger general questions are, is there differential core resource use among sympatric skates? These things co-occur. Are they trophically or spatially separated? What is the relative importance of those 2 factors? And then how can my results of my study improve skate management? So start off with what's known about skates on the West Coast, according to spatial associations. They've been poorly identified historically. About 98% of landings up through the turn of the century were unidentified. This has gotten a little bit better, but mostly just long-nosed skate are identified now. It creates a problem in that we didn't really have any baseline for this assemblage. We don't know how it's changed over time. My first thesis chapter addressed the spatial associations and defined this assemblage, which I published in PLOS One in 2014, but there was nothing for comparison. So you don't know what's happened over time here. There's a lot of anecdotal habitat information because there's a lot of, as I mentioned, submersible dives and unmanned submersible and unmanned AUV dives. So we have a lot of anecdotal habitat information, but no direct quantitative habitat information on the juvenile or adult stages. Situation is a little bit better in Alaska, mostly because of the efforts of state guys at Alaska Fisheries Science Center, who wrote this book called Identifying, Wayne Stevenson, Jay Orr, and Jerry Toff. It's been reliable identification since about 2000 or so in this region throughout the Alaska. The assemblage was characterized by the same authors in 2008 throughout Alaskan waters, and then also did some work on the White Watch skate and characterized a small assemblage in the eastern Gulf of Alaska. So there's a little bit of assemblage characterization in this region. There's no habitat information in this region. Habitat is not really a priority in Alaska as it is along the west coast, and we just don't have this information on skates. So my hypotheses for this portion are there are areas, broader regions that are of differential importance to skate, which skates within my study regions, which I'll get to in a minute. And distribution abundance patterns vary among species and life stages. We know that Alaskan rains are often ontogenetic, have different ontogenetic spatial associations. And when species co-occur at different sizes, I looked at this basically to say, okay, if we get 2 species that are kind of sharing the same space, maybe they're separated in size, which would lead to the skates would keep the predators and crabs are feeding at the food base. That's where they coexist. So data collection for the West Coast and for both of my regions, I have kind of a larger study site and then kind of a smaller study site where we actually did some hands-on sampling. The West Coast here, I've got data from 03 to 2010 from the West Coast bottom trawl survey, ranging 57 codes. We get species information, sex, total length from these codes. And for my study site in the smaller study site in this region, fishery independence, fishery surveys from National Marine Fisheries Service, Santa Cruz, conducted, trawls were conducted in 02 and 03 monthly, and then long lines, kind of sporadically over a few different years. The reasons I have long lines included here because one of my skate species, starry skates, really only caught on long lines because they occur on rock bottoms. So we put that in there. I have maturity information hands-on for these and for the other skates from the large region from the survey where I don't. I have the size information, we have size and maturity information for all these species in California, so I applied that estimate. Maturity, looked at juveniles, transitionals, and adults when I could, and had to collapse in categories and data. Both Alaska, similar situation in terms of data. I'm collecting about 4,000 codes. These trawls are done biennially. Good identification starting in about 99, so that's where I started. And then I have this other kind of smaller region. These smaller regions are really where we focus our studies in my previous job in life in California when we were working at the Shark Research Center. We had some biological studies that were in smaller regions, so that's where a lot of my course history dive came from. About 3,600 toes here, about half of them are off Kodiak, about 1,300 off the peninsula, and then just a couple hundred in other two areas. So, in terms of data analysis, for my first two hypotheses, looking at core resource use and spatial segregation, I did look at global and local spatial statistics for autocorrelation and clustering. I'm only going to present one now, the one that's kind of the best visual and kind of encapsulates things that are the best, I think, which is high-low clustering, where, excuse me, across a study set or a data set, you're looking to see if highs or more so high counts or more closely associated with highs in terms of the different codes and lows associated with lows. And then you can plot this with a local statistic, which allows you to increase. Also used regression models to associate count of skates. I want to use counts that weight because skates are different sizes, different weights, to be kind of consistent. Had dispersion issues with regular Poisson, so we used Bizzarro inflated models with these following variables. Did not include longitude because it's correlated with depth because of the orientation of the West Coast. And also ran a GAN to associate depth and temperature so that temperature too. Use logistic regression for the large data set in Gulf Alaska because there just weren't enough data to run zip models. And in this region, use longitude instead of latitude because of orientation. Here, latitude is highly correlated with that. For California, for those same hypotheses, I have some habitat data from submersible dives, about 1,200 dives actually, and about 4,000 hours of video from Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. Looked at, did just chi-square tests to look at habitat use on hard, mixed, and soft bottoms, and then scaled that relative habitat use among those three categories. One was an electricity index. I'm going to talk about habitat suitability probability maps that NIMS in the West Coast uses to define EFH or essential fish habitat for species. And for my spatial segregation, size segregation hypothesis, I looked at the number of skates that occurred in codes to see if observed is different than expected. Are they more segregated than you would expect or not? In order to do this, I had to work up binomial probabilities for each of the species and then combine them all because where you fish is determines what you catch to some extent depends on where you fish for the species. And then for species that co-occur commonly, I either ran a notice if there's more than 2 species of t-test to see if the size is related. So I'm going to present the high-low cluster now. Those states that are pointed north are the ones that also occur, and lastly, the states that are pointed south are the ones that are in California. Bright red is P is less than 0.01, and I'm sorry, dark red and bright red is less than 0.05. So you see right off the big scale. These are long-term area of aggregation because these data are pooled across here. So I've got big skates, area of aggregation here, kind of northern Monterey Bay, a little bit north. As you can see, the starries are associated with this kind of rocky platform south of Monterey Peninsula. California shifted to the north of Big Skate, also in shallower water, and in shallow water. And long nodes are out on kind of the edge of the shelf. And you can see sandpaper skate is one kind of area of aggregation north of the long. So you see kind of pronounced spatial segregation in kind of the areas that they tend to use over time. But if we look at the zip model predictions, now data set I had here goes from 58 meters, which is the shallowest toes in the survey, to 600 meters, which I had to truncate because someone else was doing a similar project in California on deeper water cities. I used the full data set for a portion of my dissertation we'll talk about later. But we can see is the common depths overlap and sort of temperatures. So if you're, and these are the species and life stages on the side of the proportions based on depth. You can see that they're kind of, some of them are pinned by the shallowest extent of my survey, right? So they reach either shallower or deeper than I'm showing here. So if you were just to look at this, you would say that they seem to really co-occur in the same regions. But if you look at kind of long-term aggregations, they really don't. Spatial and size segregation, there was no difference between observed and expected. But the species co-occurrences were all significantly different. Whenever they co-occurred in large numbers, they were always at different sizes. Habitat associations. California skate is strongly associated with sandy bottoms. Starry skate is largely associated on a larger scale with rock reefs, but within these reefs, they're mostly found on mixed and soft bottom habitats. They do occur on rock too. The long nose skate was the one that we had enough submersible, we had enough numbers from the submersible data to also run the zip model on, and by both the zip model and the chi-square mixed habitat was the preferred habitat for this species, and sandpaper skate are larger. Okay, I looked at central fish habitat for the California skate using these habitat suitability probability maps. The one on the left is the map that Nick's produced for the California skate. The one on the right is the one that I produced. Just a little bit of an overview for this. The habitat suitability probability is a deterministic model. Habitat is counted twice as much as depth and latitude in the model, in which you have a probability at any particular place of habitat suitability number, habitat suitability probability, which is multiplied by the combined depth and latitude to get this overall habitat suitability profile. And if you look at the old map, you can see that yes, this is a California skate, but it appears to hate the Northwest. If you get to Oregon, there's just not that they just stop occurring. And this obviously is not, there's not some border guard or something there. This is just a problem in the model that's indicative of kind of problematic inputs. In fact, that people don't spend a lot of attention on skates or getting the data right. If you look at the model that's produced from the inputs of my study, what you see is a much more kind of Northern California endemic species with a much more restricted range of prime habitat, which has been reduced by 95%. So these maps go into management considerations, mostly for species that have like rock issues that they're saying reserves for. But these are considerations for each species. And so basically, if you look at the old map, you're going to get a very different idea of what to do and how to manage the species habitat basis that you would. You can see that it's much more restricted and probably much more efficient than the spatial. Spatial segregation in the Alaskan species is all pointing north. I've got cold spots now too, that you're going to see the same kind of situation. You've got big skates in shallow regions and shore around Kodiak. Alaskan skates and a skew to the western portion, also mostly shallow, deeper aggregations. Long nose skate to the north, barren scape here in the Shellicott Strait region, which is we read. So far, everything's great. Everything's spatially segregated, and then we get this. The Aleutian scape just sits right on top. Okay, talk about that in a second. So, look at spatial and size segregation. I found on a trawl by trawl basis, there was toes with one scape were much more common than significantly more common than expected, and those with 3 or 4 were less. So there is, we did see segregation here on a trawl-specific basis. If we go back to those 2 scapes I just mentioned, pollution on top and burning on the bottom, you see this very kind of interesting situation in Shellicott Strait where you have that's right around the maximum size pollution scape. You've got the smaller members of that species basically being replaced by members of this other species. So you do have a co-occurrence of these 2 species in Shellicott Strait, but you essentially have this kind of replacement of the smaller member of one species with another species. So again, this is it might be originally when I thought of it, when I saw this, I thought, okay, this might be a way to kind of limit generally interspecific competition is considered strong, and interspecific competition maybe this is a way to reduce interspecific competition. That's what I thought. When we get to the diet results, I'm looking interested in further. So we're looking at the model predictions now. I'm just showing juveniles just for as an example. We see here a big scape, common depth much more shallow than the other ones. The other species tend to overlap. You can see the elapsing scape, common longitude is shifted way to the west. I should explain what this means, but I didn't yet. I define a common longitude, latitude, depth, the variables I looked at as those instances where the predicted value is greater than the so those were what I consider common. And I'm going to talk about maximums later, which is whatever the maximum predicted count was, and then all within 5%. So these long nose and buried scapes, they seem again like they're very common. They overlap commonly in depth, which are longitude. But if you look at where these maximums are, you see they start to pass out. You've got these regions where there has to be a lot of scapes that are very different species. So what do we learn about spatial ecology stages? Species and life stages are highly clustered. They're long-term. Areas of aggregation are spatially segregated, and when species co-occur. Okay, moving on to the West Coast. Trophic ecology. There was no published diet data before 2007 in the region. There was only one quantitative study by all this master's thesis. Since then, there have been 3 published studies, mostly through students at Moss Lane and Marine Labs, and they found dietary variation by size, depth, and sex maturity. In the Gulf of Alaska, there are no published diet studies, and all we have are limited data from trawl surveys, usually just a handful of animals. Yes, that is. And so I'm all perked up all of a sudden. So I was like, yeah. I've got a picture of Sarah coming up too. Oh wait, there it shows. There's an incorporation in this region of diet for some species from distant parts of the population. Okay, just because there's a paucity of information, and they use food web models up in here to formulate ecosystem considerations for species, so they're needed. So we'll talk about the utility of that. My hypotheses for this portion were that sympatric scapes were trophically redundant and they can be generalized to group. My objectives were to determine source and magnitude of diet variability, assemblages, and then compare diet composition and trophic levels between the 2 species that co-occur. So same situation. Now the numbers are stomach samples, full stomach samples that I have for the local region in California, off of Alaska. There were about 2,400 samples, and about 1,200 of them were identified by other people, which is great. So anyway, methods to look at my first objective. So I used percent weight data. I worked with him on this, and we looked at a few different metrics. We looked at just general percent weight, also prey weight over scape weight, and prey weight over state scale and percent number. Ran some Permanovas, looked at the percent variability, explaining how different they were, and they really weren't different at all. I got a little bit less variability explained by number. That is usually a proxy for repeating behavior, not energetic importance. So stuck with the one kind of common reused metric, percent weight. These 47 generalized prey categories that were developed by Marine Natural Fisheries Service for essentially fish habitat, and then for the Permanova, I reduced it to by the rare, to pick out the rare species, so that it wouldn't affect the output so much. Just cut it to 2%. Also, I'll tell you the variables that I used in a moment. The dispersion analysis I did was basically look and see if the within group variability was significantly different as well, because you're comparing two groups. Are those groups kind of consistent within each other? If they're not, your p-values that you're going to get on this. And then I ran CCA to look to basically further explain the results of my Terminova, and JS to look at spatial temporal results that we got. And then basically same data or same statistics for the comparisons, except I ran t-tests. So if we get to the California assemblage, so this was really surprising to me. Yes, species are highly significantly different, right? They shouldn't be one, but the main driver of this is not species but haul. Basically, where and when you fish for skates that is taking up most of the variability. And I ran the variables that we ran for this were haul, species, maturity, haul, species, total length, maturity, sex, depth, and oceanographic season. And when analyzed independently, every one of these variables was highly significant. So if we were just to say, which most diet studies do, I want to look at species differences in skates, or I want to look at species and maturity differences, you're going to find highly significant differences in this data set. But really what comes out here is where and when you fish, driving, what they're eating. So in all the dispersion analyses, except sex also were significant, so highly variable within groups too. Just focus on two things here. I've got similar proportions here of kind of Roger, the long nose state with a little bit of data. You can see here in this area, they're mostly fish, offshore, they're mostly cephalopods. So I pulled this out to kind of look at this a little bit further, and I couldn't put space and time together, which was too much. I just looked at space and basically see differences in the local prey resources, which come to that. So look at the CCA, I pulled out all because it swamped everything out. I just want to look at kind of underlying variability. Highly significant, but only explaining 9% of that. The first CCA, the CCA1 is a grading of increasing consumption of fishes and crabs, and then decreasing consumption of small crustaceans like isopods. And what you see, BK, or the sandpaper skate, the smallest skate was associated with those small crustaceans. And around those other sides, most of the other skates, and also total length, larger skates basically associated with that. And on the second axis, you get occurrence of more fish and cephalopods. Down axis and up axis is amphipods, crabs, crangonid, so the smaller crustaceans. And you see juveniles mostly associated with that. A big skate, which is a California skate, which tends to eat a lot of crustaceans. And rhina, or long scale down below, separated, which has a diet that has more cephalopods and fishes, and also we look at the assemblage, we get the same situation with dietary variability, even more pronounced here, in that we have 45% of the variability explained by haul. And there were over 300 different hauls to look through. There's a whole lot of hauls for not a whole lot of skates. The difference is in California, we had the entire catch delivered to us, so we got to sample everything from each haul. In Alaska, we were out on a boat with a lot of their duty, so we only got opportunities. But you see the same kind of effect even more pronounced here, with a smaller number of species, with a smaller number of samples per haul. And huge amount of variability explained in the last assignment for ecological almost 70%. So you see, again, a variety of these factors that are highly significant, but they're not really explained. And really what's driving this is where again, you get differences within groups for everything. So if we look at some of the prey resources here, these are graded to 0.25 degrees. You see over on the left, that's euphausids, and they were only eaten in shell prostrate in 2000. So, you see basically fishes that are there in 2007, skates that are there in 2000. You see crabs highly spatially variable. It basically depends probably on the timing of when they're fishing and what's there. So basically this idea that skates, yes, they seem to be generalist predators on crustaceans and fishes and kind of eating what's locally available. We look at the Gulf of Alaska assemblage again, the similarities, a small amount of the variability explained here. We've got a situation where we've got on the left side of CCA1, we've got fishes, canner crabs, other crabs, and on the right side we've got smaller crustaceans. And again, you've got larger size associated with diets that commonly have lots of fishes and crabs, and the larger crustaceans. And the small species in this assemblage, which is the third state, eating kind of the smaller crustaceans. The second axis basically separates gonadid squids and pandalid shrimps by some of the kind of smaller and rarer prey, hermit crabs, isopods, sand, and you get basically more associated with the diet that's got pandalid shrimp and gonadid squids, the elution skate, larger skate, deeper depths, and the lower side of the axis, the associations are with largely with the skate. Okay, so okay, so the two species that co-occur wanted to do regional comparisons of diet. I only use 7 generalized prey categories because they don't have the same species composition in the regions. What you see here these are scaled actually by the mean size that they got, actually by the median size. And you can see that the mean trophic level is much higher, significantly higher in California among smaller specimens than it is in Alaska. Alaska is in the grade. What you see is big skates eat a ton of crabs in Alaska. About 66% of their diet by weight is canner crab in Alaska. And in California, more fishes and shrimp. And this consumption of canner crabs, the number of canner crab ingested doesn't change with the size of the weight though. So basically, you've got these skates eating larger canner crabs than it. This is the closest example I have to a specialist in this region, although, again, I think that this is likely probably the main kind of source of this thing. Regional comparison along those skate to the same situations, typically higher trophic levels among smaller specimens in California and Hawaii. More vociferous in California again. And, in this case, they're eating more crabs and more shrimp. So, we learned about this. Skates are not tropically redundant, and they shouldn't be grouped, but diet composition is highly spatial. And differences in prey abundance probably create farming opportunities for varieties. Also saw that there was extreme regional variability. The diet predatory role played among skates, so it's a bad idea to use data from different regions. Okay. Wrapping up the ecological portion. One question asked is whether there was differential core resource use. So yeah, I found that there are differences in core resource use. They have distinct core regions of resource use, but they have broad overlapping components. The relative importance of food and space, spatial separation is much more important factor of trophic separation, and spatial temporal differences in prey abundance. moving on to management applications, the West Coast. There's only one species of skate on the West Coast that has a stock assessment that's ever been done. It's a long-lived skate in 2007. It's also the only species that has kind of a real program in this region. The other ones are just considered ecosystem components. They may be managed occasionally with fish pickets, but that's about it. We're thinking about breaking big skate out and establishing good sources. So there are stock assessments that have only been done for about 40 of 103 federally managed groundfish species in this region. Like I said, West Coast, their spatial management is important, and you can see in Southern California there are all these closed areas, mostly concerned with rockfish. The idea is to find kind of prime habitat for these areas and save it to build the stock, to create spillover, and also kind of water transport, and help the stocks on the coast. So the habitat is important along the West Coast. This is basically incorporated by the habitat suitability probability maps I already talked about, and this habitat use database, which contains information for each species and life stage. And these things are consulted in management applications or management considerations. But as I said, for skates, so far they really haven't. So my objectives for this West Coast portion of the management application is to estimate distribution of abundance patterns of skate species, life stages, and determine the relative importance of that flat habitat. Then I wanted to update essential fish habitat information for each species and life stage. So my methods to estimate the distribution of abundance patterns, the relative importance of the same. I used pulse survey data. Now I have the group that they never finished that study of the deeper water, so I said, whatever, and I just got all the data, which made me happy. And so now I can get down to 1,280 meters instead of 600, and I've got a few more years on this kind of broader region that I looked at. This is now up and down the entire coast from Mexico to same basic construct. I use depth temperature GAM to associate depth with temperature. I used zip models. I looked at GAMs, but the zip models were better fit, so I used AIC to model it. And then updated essential fish habitat information for each species in that stage. And like I mentioned, common, this is what's in the essential fish habitat database. The absolute, just the minute max of the ranges. Common, which are already kind of how I optimal ranges, which are so what we see, and I'm just going to show you the juvenile big skate and the adult big skate distribution abundance. First of all, depth is the most important factor. All that we have that last. So kind of subjectively for this HSP model determining that habitat's twice as important as everyone, probably not a good idea. Any kind of deterministic model where you decide what's happening before it's probably not a good idea. What you see represented here are counts by quartiles. And what you see from the actual survey data is a whole lot of zero values, and then in the upper quartile up to aggregations of 40. All these codes I should mention really the standard. So then the prediction basically, we're pretty good overall, but you basically don't reach kind of the high aggregations that you would, and more kind of you get kind of more of the third quartile gets some occurrences that. Same situation with the gold big skates, which are really kind of seem to be pretty rare along the coast. Comparison, you just got the same, basically the same situation where now you've got the third quartile should have some situations where you have occurrences that were actually there. Same situation in terms of the relative importance of that flag. Okay, so Gulf of Alaska. Management application. This is a food web model that Sarah put together for the pages. Longwood State, this is the backdrop. In Gulf of Alaska, there's no directed fishing for skates allowed. Fisheries that opened recently that closed pretty quickly with those big skate populations on the quickly can sustain kind of fishing pressure. There are three species groups up there that are managed up. In Alaska, you have stock assessments occurring every year that have ecosystem considerations as well, you've got big skates, mini skates, long skates, all the soft nose skates with the Baton Rouge species combined. And this mostly is made up of the ocean skate of soft nose complex. But those three are assessed yearly. Stock assessments also have, like I mentioned, the ecosystem consideration component, which deals with trophic relationships and other considerations of food web model outputs. There's steady state mass balance food web model that we've got here that Sarah's currently using, so people at the Last Picture Science Center put together, mostly from data in the road. So my objectives here were to characterize spatial control and link-based diet, and those were the factors that were most important in notice. Estimate per capita consumptive removals, and then update the Gulf of Alaska food web model for skates. So for the first method, just basically took my diet data from that I previously collected and just summarized it by region and year and size class. To estimate consumption, I used this capture evacuation rate, first of all by Eggers, the 24 hours of the day. Alpha and beta are parameters set from 0.2 to 0.11, which are found to supposedly be appropriate for skates based on work on off the northeast coastal river southern. Discussion right now that they might be low, might be underestimated. And then T is temperature associated with fall, which they were pod, and S is the mean creative. So I look at year and just the central management region. Most of my data were the central management region. Kind of from there, and because the model has extrapolations throughout the Gulf. I know that the time period of study was restricted to spring and summer months when we collected data, but to keep things consistent and compare, we made extrapolations for the entire Gulf of Alaska. And in order to update the food web model, basically just put in the new diet composition data, consumption data that I found. See how it changed. Now everything else was remaining static. Okay, so the entire model wasn't updated. So the system may have changed. All I'm looking at is the effective states and new state data on the model and how that changes. So first of all, spatial, temporal, and size-based data. We found interpret consumption was greatest around Kodiak Island region. Like I mentioned before, 2000 were important, but only for 2007 and only in one region. This is something that kind of comes up again. Small skates tend to eat amphipods, small crustaceans, polychaetes, and get a little bit bigger to eat decapods and fishes. The larger ones, the proportion of decapods and fishes. So we see all the contributions of fishes increasing in size for all species, and the largest species being those we see there's like the largest size. Look at per capita consumption. We've got median quartiles and minimum maximum values here. I also ran the nodes that the needs that they differ. For these, all on the left are states that are less than 50 centimeters per length. You can see that they go about a gram a day. These next specimens are from 50 to 99 centimeters. And you can see here that the big state during both years is typically higher than per capita consumption than any of the other species. And if we look at the larger state, we see kind of a similar pattern emerge. During 2007, big state meat consumption was greater than any other species year, except for big state 2006, which was significantly long. So, and you see that kind of the consumption of big state tends to be at the same size as greater than the others. They're found in shallower and warmer waters. So if we look at consumptive removals, I'm kind of going to be comparing apples to oranges here because I didn't have oranges. We just got these data on Friday that I asked for about that happens sometimes. These are the categories that skates eat that they eat in any kind of number that are commercially important. So what I have here are extrapolations of skate consumption for the entire Gulf. In 2006, about 136,000 metric tons per year compared to fishes. And what we see is their consumption of 300 grams and shrimps completely dwarfs the amount caught by fishers throughout all of Alaska waters. This is throughout all of Alaska. That's the proportion. But fishes, they consume just a minor relative portion of fishes. See the same thing in 07 with even a larger kind of contribution, more consumption of enterprise by big skate during this year. But the same type of thing, and now shrinks by long resolution skate, long resolution skate also. Overall, just about 152,000 metric tons in this year estimated, of which almost about 65,000. Okay, so what do we do to change the food web model inputs? Skate biomass increased by stock assessments for all the groups substantially. So we've got more skates now than we had when the first food web model was created. This QB is a consumption to biomass ratio. It's been kept standard at 2, but I was able to kind of tease out some more specific values, and we see higher consumption than is usually used in the models for big skate and lower for the long soft nose skate relative to water. And then the diet composition was really radically different. And again, a lot of this is because of extrapolations from other regions. And we see there's a very small percentage of overlap between the original diet composition and my diet composition from 2006 and 2007. The main output for this is in the original food web model, skates only accounted for about 0.2% of the amount of test. The new model, excuse me, they're among the greatest, or there are 3 of them are among the most important predators of parent theft, and as a group, skates are more important than other groups such as gadgets or flatfishes in terms of parent consumption. Now again, comparing, this is 2007 data, we have not updated the data for the other species, and given that the system, the regime shifts, we know that the system has a lot of decapods right now, it's a food base. These other species probably have increased consumption. Okay, what are my management applications? Depth is the best predictor of distribution for these species, off the west coast, that is. I have modified EFH for these species in life stage based on the model outputs. Diet composition of skates was radically changed between the original model and the new model, and skates are a major predator of in conclusion, we need to learn how to identify skates. It's a huge pain in the ass that everything is skate and identified. It really limits what you can do with historic data, and it's just wrong because they're not that hard to identify. I mean, they're not easy, but there are only 5 species in both regions that kind of encompass the great majority of biomass down to 600 meters. And you can do it. I mean, there's even heuristics if you don't, there's a bunch of ways to identify skates. Skates should be identified. It would really help out in terms of trying to figure out basically what they're catching and how to manage these things. Diet composition studies on skates are of little utility. I don't really see, if you're going to do monitoring studies, if you're going to do a hypothesis-driven trophic study, fine. If you're just collecting skates with the idea of let's see what they eat and let's test sex and let's pick some variables that we've seen are different in skates and test them. I'm going to say it's largely useless, and I think you're missing a whole lot of the picture here. Because what we really saw was that what drove skate diet was where and when you fish. And these skates are generalist predators, and as has been proposed by Link in the past, you can actually use them as samplers of the bentos to see basically what's there. So little utility to just grab a bunch of skates and see what they eat. Use that for extrapolating from that and try to add to the body of information on the skate. I think what the research efforts should be focused on are fine scale and long-term spatial studies. I think a lot of what's happening in skates is being missed in the trawl data set. We know that from skates on the East Coast there are seasonal movements. There are a lot of very important kind of reproductive movements that happen, and a lot of the aggregations happen during these reproductive times. And I think a lot of this is just swamped out by the trawl data because it's just over the general lines. And if you put some tags and some receivers down there to follow where the skates go, what we're seeing is skates come off the bottom very frequently. Skates make migrations of over 2,300 kilometers in the big skate case from DC to western Kodiak. We see a lot of things that I think are ultimately driving what they're eating based on these kind of spatial associations with where they are. So I think that's where we need to focus our efforts. And core resource use really varies between skates and rays. I started out, and I love rays. But there's this big difference in core resource use between skates and rays. What you see in rays are a variety of feeding methods. You have dwarf-phage rays, you have filtered feeders. You have rays with small circumcised mouths that suck polypes out of burrows. You have rays that can excavate feeding pits in the bottom. For skates, you have, they cannot excavate feeding pits. They can't crush prey. Basically, they're gate-limited predators that eat what they can fit in their mouths that is kind of available there. So it's different. And then you see, if you study rays and the assemblage of rays, you often will see this marked trophic separation, which you really don't see in skates. So within the pathways, there's this difference between skates and rays in terms of how they should be. All right. With that, I would like to thank my funding sources. North Pacific Research Board was awesome to me. Gave me a good bit of money that I really needed. SAS, I had surgery and I couldn't work one term, and they provided me a stipend that I didn't ask for, and that was humbling. That really helped. Williams Mystic, where I did an undergrad and I kept touch and got some money for that for the Biological Society. And then National Marine Fisheries Service and Tombola Institute is Gary. National Marine Fisheries Service is Mary Okovich. These are two old friends of mine that gave me work when I really needed it, and actually turned into the work I did with Mary to the job that I'm doing next year. So my Ph.D. committee, man, I learned a lot. I think everybody on the committee is smarter than me. I usually think that way, but you know. Anyway, Tim, I learned so much from Tim. I had so much fun working on my second chapter with him. I love the way he just approaches science, comes up with a question, and then that might lead to something else. And it was just fun. I really had a good time working on especially my second chapter, but overall, Tim, he always has wonderful insights that make me reconstruct discussion and think differently, like a real scientist. And I did a lot of applied work before, and Tim and Adam, who look are kind of big picture guys, was really kind of broaden my work. Sarah is amazing. I can't wait to continue to work with her on my on the management aspect of my last chapter for the publication. She's been awesome. Anytime I've ever needed anything, she provided great leadership, and she's got just a great, wonderful temperament. I really enjoyed working with Sarah. Miles legitimized me as a GIS person. I had taught myself GIS and worked at it for years, but I took a couple courses with Miles and really learned GIS, which I think was awesome. I was able to apply that. I don't know what to say about Andre. I mean, Jason Cole, when I was looking for committee members, said, put Andre in your committee. And I said, well, I don't really do what I do. And he said, put Andre in your committee. It makes everything better. And it's totally amazing. Anytime anything could have fallen through the cracks, Andre was always there to catch it. And he's just an amazing scientist that really has helped me improve my work. I've enjoyed tremendously getting work. Adam Summers, my major professor, we come from different backgrounds, we do different things, and I don't think that this all kind of went the way both of us expected, but I had a great time learning from him. I think I'm going to have a really fun time in the future learning from him. We could be kind of an older guy. I'm not great at the top-down thing. Adam doesn't exert a lot of top-down pressure, but it's going to be nice to be more colleagues where we can work on papers and this kind of thing, you know. And I really appreciate the way he's made me think about things. And I think Adam does the best presentation of anyone I've ever seen. He's really helped me tremendously in that. And also, if it matters to him, then I figure it matters to the larger scientific community, because mostly what I've done is kind of been collaborative work. And since Adam doesn't really do ecological work that much, questions and things that are interesting to him, I find probably are interesting to the larger community. It's helped me expand kind of my work and also just make it better. I have to thank a whole bunch of colleagues that helped me tremendously. Chris and Brock was great teaching regression models and whatnot. I can't thank everyone. I love Julie Nolan. This military class was absolutely awesome. I completely enjoyed doing it and learned a ton from the wonder to his office to ask her random questions. Sometimes I see her going to be short, tiny questions, and they aren't always. I appreciate the time he's given me. A lot of friends in Seattle have really helped. A lot of people here today, which is awesome. And I had really good times here. I was accepted, by my cohorts when I came here, even though I felt kind of weird, older than most people and everything. Everybody was great. I really had a fantastic time here at SNAPS, and I think that the community was just tremendous and very supportive. And you've got some really top-notch people here doing work without a whole bunch of I want to thank especially to my family. They have been tremendously supportive to me throughout some really tough times since I've been here. Brother Matt, his wife Wendy, and my nieces, mom and dad who are here today. My grandmother, who we call Graham, still around. The sweetest, not the sweetest woman I've ever known. Yeah, and I'm going to end with this, which is a picture of a skate living where it's not supposed to live. There's still, I think I learned a lot about skates, but there's certainly a whole lot left. With that, I'd like to say thank you for coming.
What's it not supposed to be doing?
Swimming with time. This is a video that I captured from the garden. So what happens is he takes off about up into the water. I don't have the next frame. That is the best shot I
So you brought the idea that these guys are sand.
Jason Lincoln brought this up. I'm just saying I think that's probably.
The reality of doing that, how much detail you get in some samples, could you get it down to, like, you see the.
This is also one of the problems of doing diagnostics and analysis and things like this. You've got different levels of digestion, different rate, so your level of taxonomic clarity is different, which necessitates using kind of generalized levels that aren't too generalized. You don't want to be redundant. You don't want to lose information. So, there's a typical problem there in the levels of identification. If we could get everything to species, well, I think that would make a big difference. And if you could measure them, because there seem to be these differences in this is eight. Those two species I showed in the Shelikoff scrape that had those pronounced spatial differences. These are their mouth width. Those are two regressions that are not significantly different. They're basically long continuum. So you see that the larger states have a pre-resources that are available to the small ones. And I think that this is probably important to drive back to. I don't know about the small mesh bag survey versus killing a bunch of skates and seeing what they eat. I mean, I don't know about the utility of that. I think that basically, but I will say I have sent to museums organisms I found in skate swims that represent range extensions for them. Shrimp, crabs aren't supposed to be there. I've got a trip to look identifying and found them, and then people said, well, and then so there is some utility in there, but to get a general species composition.
So those sort of alluded to also things, for scale training, seeing driving that based on survey conditions. I'm just curious what else would pop out to you that the thing from out in school that you know seeing
I haven't. We don't have, or I haven't seen those data or analyzed. Bari's got a lot of data on they're not transects or quantified in any way, so they're just kind of presence. Most of that is drawn from other regions, and especially the East Coast, where they have kind of historic information that shows these kind of migrations, escapes, and other things. Off the West Coast, we just don't have those data. But what I see in the subdives, they just sit by and skate in the same. Every once in a while, you see 8 long-nosed skates together. Someone in the sub goes, whoa! But really what you need is, I think, really what you need is to start kind of tagging these things. And, like they set up monitors for rockfish or white sharks or whatever. Something like that for skates. And where people have done this, they've shown really kind of interesting day-to-day movements off the bottom. Not so much kind of local movements, but then all of a sudden, kind of seasonally, they'll split and go somewhere else. I know with rays, when I was working in Mexico, you go to one bay and there would be all males of one species, another bay there would be grabbing females would pop, the males would move into that bay, and the females would leave. You came at different times, you only see all males or females. I think similar situations is occurring in skates, but they're just kind of keeping water. It hasn't really been studied that much. But yeah, I think just generally what we know about skates in totality, what we know about hazard, there's not that evidence in the West Coast. Yes.
So it seems from your first chapter about this spatial evolution of species, but it seems to clump pretty closely together within each group. And it seems sort of surprising compared with the confusion when they're really generalists and whatever they mean. So I'm just kind of curious, why do you think they're showing up in such a patchy way if they're able to?
I think I have a general idea that when resources are plentiful, I tried to tease out, and I just didn't have, didn't show, couldn't really work it out. But my general idea is that when there are plentiful resources, like for instance, when there's settlements of rock, which we see a bunch of skates in rock, they're entrained to be thousands of heads of training for wells. I think that there are these feeding opportunities that present where a bunch of skates are kind of aggregating here where there's a lot of training. I think in other times they probably have kind of these core regions that we're seeing show up where kind of general. But that's really speculations. I don't know. That's what I thought.
All right, thank Joe once more. Now the general public is excused for the next little bit while we examine Joe more closely in private.